My name is Lin Zixuan, and I am the eldest legitimate daughter of the Grand Chancellor's estate. Today was to be my wedding day, the day I married Crown Prince Li Changzhe. The vermilion bridal procession stretched from the estate's gates all the way to the majestic Tianwu Gate of the imperial palace, brocade carpeting the earth, music shaking the heavens. Seated bolt upright in the 8 palanquin, my fingertips were cold as frost. There was no joy in my heart, only the stillness of a deep, frozen pool. Through the swaying curtain of the palanquin, the cacophony from the Plaza of Supreme Harmony was clearly audible, yet to my ears, that deafening symphony of celebration was nothing but the death knell that had tolled for me in a past life. They all believed this to be the most glorious moment of my life, but no one knew I had already walked this path to its bitter end once before. In that former existence, there was no phoenix coronet, no empress's throne. There was only the sea of crimson when my entire clan was executed, and that cup of poisoned wine, handed to me personally by the woman I called Mother. Schwanner, don't blame Mother. You should blame yourself for standing in your sister's way. Her chilling smile from that moment now overlapped perfectly with her grief-stricken face outside the palanquin in this life. The procession halted abruptly. The music ceased as if severed by a blade. The noisy chatter was choked off by an invisible hand, plunging the plaza into a tomb-like silence before erupting into an uproar like a crashing mountain and tsunami. I sat unmoving, my eyelashes not even trembling. What was to come could never be avoided. From outside pierced my mother's, Madame Zhao's, heart-wrenching wail shredding the silence of the plaza. "Your Majesty, this subject's wife is guilty. I have failed in teaching my daughter and have shamed your Majesty and His Highness the Crown Prince." I lifted a corner of the curtain. In the dazzling sunlight, I saw Madame Zhao, resplendent in her first-rank consort's robes, kneeling in disarray upon the golden bricks. Beside her stood my younger sister, Lin Zixuan. Her red veil had been torn away, revealing her usually delicate and gentle face, now streaked with tears. What was even more shocking was the pronounced swell of her abdomen, impossible to conceal beneath her bridal gown. Heavens! Is the second young miss with child? She looks at least 5 or 6 months, and today is the Crown Prince's wedding. A monumental scandal! Whispers like poisoned arrows shot toward my wedding palanquin, some sympathetic, some pitying, but most filled with malicious glee. I saw my father, Lin Weizheng, trembling with rage, his aged face flushed a deep purple. I saw my elder brother, Lin Ziming, eyes bloodshot, fists clenched so tight the knuckles cracked. And upon the high dais, Crown Prince Li Changzhe wore a mask of pained helplessness, gazing at Lin Zixuan with tender concern, and at me with apologetic guilt. Had I not already died once, I truly would have been fooled by this hypocritical farce. Madame Zhao continued her performance, kowtowing until her forehead bled. "Your Majesty, Zixuan has been deeply in love with the Crown Prince. In a moment of passion, she made a mistake and conceived a child. Now it can no longer be hidden. To preserve the dignity of the royal family and the Crown Prince's bloodline, this subject's wife begs you to permit my 2 daughters to serve the same husband. Let Zixuan enter the Eastern Palace as a consort." The entire hall fell to a deathly hush. Everyone waited to see me collapse in tears, to become the greatest laughingstock the capital had ever seen. But under the weight of countless stares, I reached out and pushed the palanquin door myself. My phoenix-embroidered wedding shoes, threaded with gold, landed steadily upon the ground. Bearing the weight of the heavy phoenix coronet and embroidered robes, I stepped out. The hem of my skirt swept a decisive arc as I walked slowly toward Madame Zhao. Her weeping ceased abruptly. She stared at me, dumbfounded. A faint smile touched my lips, my voice soft yet crystal clear. "Mother, why must you humble yourself so?" As I spoke, I bent to help her up. Her body trembled uncontrollably. Whether from the act or genuine fear, I did not care. The dignity of the royal house is naturally paramount. I gently wiped a tear from the corner of her eye, but my gaze swept past her to land squarely on the crown prince upon the dais. Then I turned, faced the imperial throne, straightened my wedding robes, and performed a flawless curtsy. "Your Majesty, this subject's daughter believes my mother's proposal is most improper."
The Emperor's calm eyes finally rippled with a trace of surprise. I raised my voice, letting it carry across the silent plaza. "The Crown Prince and my sister Ziyu share a true, deep affection and already bear the fruit of their love. This is a romantic tale that deserves fulfillment. For me to marry into the Eastern Palace now would only cast me as the villain who tears lovers apart. It would not only bring disgrace to His Highness and Sister Ziyu, but would also make the Lin family the joke of the entire realm." The moment the words left my lips, the Crown Prince's face drained of color. Lin Ziyu staggered, her delicate form evoking pity. Meeting the Crown Prince's shocked gaze, my voice rose another degree, ringing clear across the plaza. "Therefore, this subject's daughter voluntarily requests to annul the marriage contract with the Crown Prince." This earth-shattering declaration caused an uproar. Before the crowd could recover, I knelt once more. "This subject's daughter knows this damages the royal house's prestige. I am willing to take the Tunzer, enter the royal temple to pray for the court, and thus bring closure to this bond." My words were flawless, preserving everyone's dignity while absolving me of all blame. But this was not my final destination. I lifted my head, my gaze blazing as I stared directly at the Emperor, enunciating each word. "This subject's daughter dares to make one further request. I beg your Majesty to bestow me in marriage to Prince Jing, Li Xuanlang, the one who has guarded the northern frontiers for 10 years and has not returned to the capital." Silence. A complete and utter silence. If Madame Zhao's actions were like hurling a boulder, my words were akin to detonating a volcano. Prince Jing, Li Xuanlang, the current emperor's younger brother, commander of 300,000 elite iron cavalry in the north. He was the pillar of the great Liang dynasty, but also a legendary devil of war who killed without blinking. Approaching 30, he had neither wife nor concubine. The noble daughters of the capital would rather marry a street peddler than step into the Prince Jing residence. "Zixuan, have you lost your mind?" The Crown Prince could no longer maintain his composure. He rushed down from the dais and seized my wrist, his grip threatening to crush bone. "That's my imperial uncle. He's a madman. Marrying him is seeking death. That's my fault today. I apologize. You enter the mansion first. I will never treat you unkindly," he growled in a low voice, a trace of imperceptible panic hidden within. I looked at him quietly. My gaze traveled from his clenched hand to his hypocritical face. In my past life, I had been deceived by these very words and met a tragic end. "Your Highness, the Crown Prince," I said coldly, "have we performed the vows to heaven and earth?" He was stunned, then shook his head. "Since we have not, I am not your wife." My voice was sharp as an ice blade. "You love Sister Ziyu so deeply, if you cannot even grant her a proper status, forcing her to follow you in this ambiguous disgrace, is this how you express your love? Or are you deliberately humiliating the Lin family?"
Each word fell like a heavy hammer, leaving Li Changzhe paler by the second. My father finally stirred from his shock. He stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, my daughter's words are absolutely correct. The Lin family has served with loyalty for generations. We are not kneaded dough to be bullied at will. I beg your Majesty to uphold justice for the Lin family." Madame Zhao shrieked and lunged at me. "You unfilial creature, are you trying to destroy our entire family?" I turned a cold gaze upon her, so unfamiliar it frightened her into stillness. "Mother, from the moment you knelt down today, the one who destroyed everything was you. You value face above all. Now that the Crown Prince and Ziyu's affair and pregnancy are public facts, only if I withdraw completely and marry a prince of the blood like Prince Jing can this scandal be whitewashed into a tale where all get their just deserts. The Crown Prince gains his beloved beauty, Ziyu fulfills her wish, and I can marry a true hero of the realm. Is this not a victory for all?" My words blocked all avenues of mediation. The emperor on his throne studied me for a long moment, his eyes revealing the appreciation of a master chess player spotting a brilliant move. What a declaration, marrying a hero. He stood, the 5-clawed golden dragons on his robe shimmering. "We decree thus. Crown Prince Li Changzhe has failed in virtue. He is confined to the Eastern Palace."
The Eastern Palace for 3 months to reflect upon his faults. Lin Ziyu's conduct is improper, but considering she may carry the imperial heir, she is conferred the title of Noble Lady of the Crown Prince, and shall enter the Eastern Palace on an auspicious date. Rewards will be discussed after she gives birth. Lin Zixuan, eldest legitimate daughter of the Grand Chancellor's estate, is virtuous, understanding, and upholds great principles. Her marriage contract with the Crown Prince is annulled. She is bestowed in marriage to Prince Jing, Li Xuanlang, as his principal wife. The wedding shall be held upon the day of his triumphant return, by imperial command. Noble Lady, a rank lower even than a regular consort. I could almost picture Lin Ziyu's furious, distorted expression. Li Changzhe roared in protest, but was forcibly escorted away by imperial guards. I knew the first step of my vengeance had been taken, steady and fierce. The journey back to the Grand Chancellor's estate was shrouded in a terrifying silence. The moment I passed through the gates, Madame Zhao flew at me like a maddened lioness, her slap striking my cheek with a crack, pain blooming instantly. "You vile spawn, I schemed and planned all for you to become Empress one day. Why have you ruined everything?" I touched my burning cheek and began to laugh instead. The sound was eerily out of place in the silent main hall. "Mother, search your conscience. Are you doing this for me, or are you doing it so your grandson can become emperor, allowing the Zhao family to hold all power at court? You knew full well of the Crown Prince and Ziyu's scandal, yet you chose to expose it on my wedding day. Was it not to use me as a pawn, to force the royal family to accept Ziyu, making me a puppet principal wife so you could control the Eastern Palace harem?" My words were like sharp blades tearing apart her hypocritical mask. Madame Zhao's face turned deathly pale. She stumbled back. You speak nonsense." "Nonsense?" I took a step forward, staring silently at her, thinking of the cup of poisoned wine she had personally brought me in my past life. Terrified by the hatred in my eyes, she screamed, "Mad woman! Poisonous creature!" My father kicked the door open and entered. Seeing the red handprint on my face, his eyes flushed with fury. He shoved Madame Zhao aside and shielded me behind him. "For the sake of your ambition and the Zhao family's power, you would use your own daughter as a stepping stone? Guards, take the madam back to the Clear Breeze courtyard. Without my permission, she is not to take a single step outside." Madame Zhao was dragged away, weeping and cursing. I watched with cold detachment. In my past life, I believed her lies of doing it for your own good, and ended with not even my bones remaining. Soon, a palace eunuch arrived to deliver the imperial decree, formally conferring upon me the title of Princess Jing designate. Father looked at me, his eyes full of worry. "Schwanner, Prince Jing has a fierce temperament, and the northern frontier is bitterly cold. Why did you choose him of all people?" I poured father a cup of hot tea, my gaze resolute. "Father, after today's events, if I remain in the capital, the crown prince will hate me to the bone, and mother will not let me go. Sooner or later, I would lose my life. Marrying to the northern frontier seems like leaving prosperity behind, but in truth, it is leaving the crown prince's sinking ship and clinging to a true pillar of support. Prince Jing holds heavy military authority and is the backbone of the royal house. Marrying him not only allows me to protect myself, but may also secure a path of survival for the Lin family." Father stared at me stunned, then tears welled in his eyes. "Good, good, you are truly my daughter, Lin Wei Chang's daughter. Father will prepare your dowry at once. Even if you are marrying to the ends of the earth, you will go in the grandest style." In the days that followed, the Grand Chancellor's estate bustled with activity. Father nearly emptied the family coffers, preparing a dowry even more lavish than the one for my wedding to the Crown Prince. As for me, I secluded myself in the study, poring over documents concerning the northern frontiers, their customs, geography, military, and political affairs. I was to marry the god of war of Great Liang. I would never be a caged bird, knowing only romantic trifles. Rumors swirled through the capital. Some laughed at my foolishness, some mocked my desperation. I paid them no mind. Lin Zixuan was quietly carried into the Eastern Palace in a modest sedan chair, no ceremony, no feast, becoming the city's latest joke. Confined to the Eastern Palace, the Crown Prince's temper grew increasingly volatile. The sound of shattered porcelain echoed from there daily. Lin Zixuan's life could not be easy. Madame Zhao remained confined to her courtyard, weeping and cursing every day. When the Zhao family sent people to visit, father turned them all away. Time flowed on, and the day of the Crown Prince's sudden death from my past life drew near.
One afternoon, my confidant maid, Yunju, hurried in to report. "Miss, news from the palace. The Crown Prince vomited blood and fell into a coma this morning. The imperial physicians are at a loss. I fear he may not last the day." The brush in my hand paused slightly. So it had come. "There's another matter." Yunju's voice held excitement. "Someone from Prince Jing's residence has delivered the betrothal gifts." I quickly set down my brush and walked out. Dozens of black-armored soldiers stood solemnly in the courtyard, their fierce aura silencing the estate's servants. Leading them was a deputy commander of the northern frontier's black-armored cavalry, Chen Shao, a scar marring his cheek. He knelt on one knee. "This subordinate is ordered by His Highness Prince Jing to deliver the betrothal gifts to the princess." Lacquered red boxes inlaid with gold were opened one by one. There was no gold, silver, pearls, or jade, no silk or satin. The first box held a pure white fur cloak of Arctic snow fox. The second contained a sharp dagger inlaid with gemstones. 36 crates of betrothal gifts, all rare treasures unique to the northern frontier, practical and priceless, carrying the harsh wind of the borders. In the final box lay a black iron token, quiet and heavy. The ancient seal script character Xuan was engraved upon it. The prince instructed, This is the Prince Jing command token. To see the token is to see the prince himself. Henceforth, the 300,000 black-armored cavalry of the northern frontiers will all obey the princess's commands. Chen Shao's voice boomed like a bell. Father staggered, utterly shocked. This was no mere betrothal gift. This was handing the entire northern frontier to me. I clenched the token, its cold, heavy weight steadying my heart. I sneered inwardly. Li Changzi, Lin Ziyu, look at the man I have chosen. He is 1,000 miles away, yet he can give me the world. At that moment, the somber toll of the funeral bell began to ring from the palace. 9 times it rang, plunging heaven and earth into solemn silence. The crown prince was dead. Father staggered, nearly falling. Chen Shao and the black-armored soldiers knelt on one knee toward the palace. I held the token tightly, its cold touch keeping me utterly clear-headed. Li Changzi, you have died a full month earlier than in my past life. It was I, this reborn butterfly, who hastened your downfall. Relay my order, I said calmly. The black-armored cavalry is to take over security within 100 li radius centered on the Grand Chancellor's estate. No one enters or leaves without my handwritten command. Chen Shao immediately deployed his men. The black-armored soldiers scattered like ghosts, instantly transforming the estate into an impenetrable fortress. Before Father entered the palace for mourning, he repeatedly urged me to be cautious in all things. After he left, I instructed Yanju to gather news from the Clear Breeze Court and the Eastern Palace. Half an hour later, Yanju returned. Miss, when the madam heard the funeral bells, she went mad, wailing that her dream of becoming Empress Dowager was shattered. She even tried to dash her head against the wall. Second Miss was frightened on the spot. Her womb stirred and she fainted. The imperial physician said the child might not be saved. I lifted my teacup, my eyes cold. Not saved? That won't do. That illegitimate seed was a grand gift I had prepared for Lin Ziyu and Madame Zhao. How could it disappear so easily? Yanju, prepare the carriage. We are going to the Eastern Palace. I stood, a sharp glint flashing in my eyes. I shall visit my dear sister and help her protect that fetus. The Eastern Palace was already draped in white mourning silks, a scene of bleak despair. My carriage passed unimpeded under the protection of the black-armored cavalry. The guards at the gate dared not question when they saw the insignia of Prince Jing's residence. Entering Lin Ziyu's bedchamber, the strong stench of blood and medicine assailed my senses. Imperial physicians knelt across the floor, faces ashen. Maidservants knelt upon seeing me. I dismissed them all and walked to the bedside, looking down at Lin Ziyu, her face pale as paper. She slowly opened her eyes. Seeing it was me, her eyes instantly filled with terror and venom. Lin Zixuan, it's you! You killed His Highness! You harmed me! Sister, you must not speak nonsense. I opened a food box containing a bowl of miscarriage-preventing medicine. His Highness failed in virtue and met an unfortunate end. The child in your belly is the Crown Prince's sole remaining bloodline. If it is lost, do you think His Majesty will merely punish you? Will he grant you white silk to hang yourself, or send you to a nunnery to end your days? Lin Ziyu's face paled further. Her entire body trembled. I poured the medicine onto the brocade quilt and whispered by her ear, "In my last life, you and Mother ended me with a bowl of poison. This life, I will not let you die so easily. I want you to live well. Give birth to this bastard seed. Guard the memorial tablet of the dead and watch this illegitimate child slowly rot in the depths of the palace." "Devil! You devil!" she screamed. I straightened up and said coldly to the imperial physicians at the door, "The Crown Prince's sole bloodline must be preserved. Use whatever medicine you must. If you cannot save it, you and your families will all be buried with this unborn imperial grandchild." With that, I turned and left, leaving behind the sound of the imperial physicians kowtowing repeatedly. Shortly after returning to the estate, an imperial summons arrived from the palace. The emperor wished to see me in the imperial study.
The palace at night was even more solemn, white silks fluttering in the wind, exuding a chill of death. In the imperial study, the emperor stood by the window in casual robes, his figure solitary. "This subject's daughter, Lin Zixuan, pays respects to your majesty." "Rise." The emperor turned. His gaze was sharp as an eagle's. "My crown prince is dead, yet you do not seem grieved?" "This subject's daughter voluntarily requested to annul the marriage contract. All ties with the crown prince were severed. Now I am the future Princess Jing. My loyalty lies first with Prince Jing and above all with your majesty. I dare not let past people or events disturb my peace of mind." I bowed my head, stating my position while elevating both the emperor and Prince Jing. A trace of satisfaction flashed in his eyes. "Do you like the betrothal gifts Shuang Lang sent?" "The prince's kindness overwhelms me, your majesty." "It is not kindness but trust," the emperor interrupted. "He has handed over his backing in the north to you. Do you know the weight of this trust?" I raised my head and met him directly. "This subject's daughter knows and will not fail it." "The crown prince was poisoned to death." The emperor changed the subject, his voice turning cold. "Someone mixed a rare Western poison into his daily tonic. Accumulated over time, not even the gods could save him. The one who delivered the medicine was Lin Zixuan, and behind her were your mother and the Zhao family. They wanted the crown prince to die, so that bastard seed could become the imperial grandson, supporting a child emperor, allowing the Zhao family to usurp power like the consort kin of the previous dynasty." He threw a dossier at my feet. I bent to pick it up, my fingertips icy. "So Li Changzhe's death in my last life was also their doing?" A surge of hatred nearly burst from my chest. I gripped the dossier tightly, maintaining surface calm. "What does your majesty wish this subject's daughter to do?" "The bastard seed in Lin Zixuan's belly cannot die for now. I will use it as bait to catch all the Zhao family rats." The emperor's eyes were full of killing intent. "I bestow upon you a golden medallion to oversee the Eastern Palace on our behalf. Lin Zixuan's miscarriage prevention, medication, diet, and the deployment of Eastern Palace servants are under your control. Before that seed is born, lay out all evidence of the Zhao family's treason before me." This subject's daughter obeys the decree. I kowtowed to accept the order, a raging fire of vengeance ignited in my heart. "Mother, Zhao family, you have personally placed the butcher's knife in my hands. This life I will surely make you lose everything and die by your own schemes." Holding the golden medallion, I returned to the Eastern Palace overnight. I sealed the bedchamber, dismissed the original maidservants, and kept only Yunju by my side. I searched the room meticulously and finally found a small white jade perfume box at the bottom of Zhao's trunk.
Dressing table drawer. The box was empty, but a faint, cloyingly sweet, fishy scent remained, the same scent as that cup of poisoned wine from my past life. Carved on the bottom of the box was a small ginkgo leaf mark, the symbol of the Silver Leaf Workshop, a business under the Zhao family. Yunju said, "The Silver Leaf Workshop is the Zhao family's medicinal herb shop, specializing in rare herbs from the western regions." I sneered. "It seems it also specializes in deadly poisons." At that moment, Chen Xiao reported outside the door. "Princess, the Dowager Madame Zhao requests an audience." Grandmother was here. Perfect. Let her in. I hid the perfume box in my sleeve. Dowager Madame Zhao, dressed in her full first-rank consort regalia and leaning on a dragon-head cane, entered with a sorrowful expression. Seeing Lin Zixuan, she moved to rush forward, but I stopped her. "Grandmother, it is late at night. My sister's fetus is unstable, and the imperial physician ordered absolute quiet. His Majesty has decreed no visitors are allowed." I deliberately emphasized His Majesty's decree and imperial air. The dowager's face shifted slightly, attempting to pressure me with familial sentiment. "Schwanner, you have Zhao family blood in your veins. Zixuan is your own sister. How can you be so heartless?" Precisely because we are sisters, I must think of her even more. I refused to yield an inch. The crown prince has just passed. My sister is with child. This is a critical juncture. If outsiders come and go freely and something happens, who will bear the responsibility? The Lin family or you and the Zhao family, grandmother? The dowager was choked, her face flushing with anger, her eyes revealing undisguised malice. She knew I was no longer the granddaughter she could manipulate at will. In the end, she could only leave seething with resentment. Send someone to watch the dowager madam, see whom she meets and what she says upon her return, I instructed Yunju. Also, have Deputy Commander Chen send capable men to thoroughly investigate the Silver Leaf workshop. Late that night, Chen Xiao reported, "Princess, the fire broke out at the Silver Leaf workshop. The shop, account books, and clerks were all burned to ashes. The capital magistrate said it was an accidental fire, but this subordinate found a section of carriage axle engraved with the Zhao family emblem in the ruins. An accidental fire? The Zhao family acted swiftly, but they slipped up. Deputy Commander Chen, immediately take men back to the fire scene. Say you are ordered by me to thoroughly investigate the Crown Prince's poisoning. Make as much noise as possible. Let the whole city know I have my eyes on the Silver Leaf workshop," I continued. "After father attends court that dawn, he need only appear deeply worried before His Majesty." Then I wrote a secret memorial detailing 3 points: the suspicious fire at the Silver Leaf workshop, the discovery of the Zhao family carriage wreckage, and the finding of the poison perfume box. I sealed it together with the box and ordered Chen Xiao to deliver it to the chief eunuch Liu Gonggang overnight. Tell him this is the first answer sheet presented to His Majesty by Princess Jing. At dawn, the Crown Prince's death and the fire at the Silver Leaf workshop became the capital's Jotian. Overnight, Lin Zixuan had transformed from a pitiful, discarded bride into an inscrutable, avenging goddess. At the morning court, several censors connected to the Zhao family launched an attack, accusing me, a woman, of blockading the Eastern Palace in violation of ancestral rules. The emperor looked at my father, who bowed and replied, "My daughter's actions may seem improper, but they are all to protect the Crown Prince's bloodline and thoroughly investigate the cause of death. This matter is of grave importance. My daughter is young, and I worry day and night that she may fail your Majesty's grace." His words struck the core. The emperor's face darkened. "The Crown Prince died suddenly. The true culprit remains at large. Instead of focusing on solving the case, you quibble over rules. Lin Zixuan is the future Princess Jing, investigating the case by our order. Anyone who dares criticize further is questioning imperial authority. Whoever can find the true culprit will be enfeased as a duke. Those who obstruct the investigation will be punished as accomplices in the Crown Prince's murder." Once the decree was issued, the censors who had impeached me turned ashen. All civil and military officials fell silent. Under the complex glazes of the crowd, my father straightened his back. This round, the Lin family had won again. When news from the court returned, I was tending to Lin Ziyu in the Eastern Palace. After the imperial physician's efforts, her life and the child's were temporarily secured. She was awake, her eyes hollow and resentful, glaring fiercely at me. "Sister, it's time for the miscarriage-preventing medicine." I held the bowl, smiling gently. This prescription was personally written by the director of the Imperial Hospital using 1,000-year ginseng and 100-year Ling Zi. Am I not good to you, sister? "Get out," she roared, turning her head away. I poured the medicine onto the brocade quilt, my voice soft. "Such expensive medicine, and you waste it again. Your only value now is the flesh in your womb. If you want to live, you must give birth to it safely." "Then kill me!" She collapsed in tears. "Killing you would be too kind." I leaned down and whispered in her ear, I want you to watch me marry Prince Jing in the grandest style, watch your mother and the Zhao family be destroyed, and then live out your days as a widow guarding the memorial tablet of the dead and your illegitimate child." She trembled violently, her eyes filled with a fear worse than death. I noticed she clutched a crude peace talisman in her hand and snatched it away. Opening it, there was no prayer inside, only a lock of hair tied with red string and a note that read, "Wait for me." Signed, Zhao Yan. My cousin, the most favored grandson of the Zhao family. In my past life, I only knew of Lin Zixuan's affair with the crown prince. I never knew of this filthy secret behind it. This bastard seed was not the crown prince's at all. It was Zhao Yan's. What an ambitious scheme the Zhao family had, having Lin Zixuan seduce the crown prince, become pregnant with Zhao blood, poison the crown prince, and then perform a swap of the prince, letting the Zhao bloodline ascend the throne. A wave of fury and nausea rose in my heart. I held the note, looked at Lin Zixuan's panicked, desperate face, and smiled. "I will not only keep your secret, I will also tell His Majesty that the child in your belly is of true dragon bloodline and must be protected at all costs. I will let Zhao Yan watch you give birth to another man's child, let him suffer longing and fear, and finally expose everything before him, ensuring the Zhao family is executed for the crime of deceiving the emperor." "You mad woman!" Lin Zixuan screamed. I put away the talisman and note and ordered Chen Shao to investigate Zhao Yan thoroughly, all his movements, everyone he met, every place he visited in the past 6 months, no detail too small. Chen Shao was efficient, bringing back news within half a day. On the surface, Zhao Yan was a playboy frequenting brothels, but secretly he slipped through a hidden passage to a private villa in the suburbs on every 15th day of the month, Lin Zixuan's private property. In a hidden compartment of the villa's bedchamber, they found all the letters between Zhao Yan and Lin Zixuan, filled with adultery and ambitions of seizing the throne. "Send a letter to Zhao Yan and Lin Zixuan that I intend to harm the child in her belly tonight, and tell him to come to the Eastern Palace immediately to save her," I said to Yunju. "Miss, that's letting the wolf into the house." Yunju was alarmed. "No, this is luring the tiger into the trap." A cold light flashed in my eyes. "I want him to break down completely before me." Late at night, in Lin Zixuan's Eastern Palace bedchamber, I dismissed everyone, leaving only Chen Shao and his men hidden in the shadows. Lin Zixuan trembled in fear, while I leisurely peeled an orange. Shortly after midnight, a shadow slipped into the palace. It was Zhao Yan. "Zhu Yu!" He tore off his mask and froze instantly at the scene before him. I placed an orange segment in my mouth and said slowly, "Cousin, you are quite bold breaking into the Eastern Palace forbidden area." Zhao Yan's face shifted from anxiety to shock, then to extreme panic. "Lin Zixuan, it's your trick." I pointed at Lin Zixuan on the bed and threw the letters at his feet. "Take a look at your touching love story and your clever plan of swapping the prince." Seeing the letters, Zhao Yan collapsed to the ground. You know everything."
"Otherwise, why would I invite you here?" I stood looking down at him. "When the Zhao family poisoned me and plotted against the entire Lin family, why didn't you speak of family then?" "Don't push me." A fierce glint flashed in Zhao Yan's eyes as he drew a dagger from his boot. "We'd like to see what other tricks the Zhao family has left." A cold, majestic voice came from behind the screen. The emperor walked out, surrounded by Chen Shao and the imperial guards. Seeing the emperor, Zhao Yan's face turned paper white, his trousers soaked through. "Your Majesty," I knelt in salute. "Your Majesty, the culprit is caught red-handed." The emperor glanced at Zhao Yan on the ground, his eyes full of killing intent. "Seize this traitor. Issue an order to thoroughly investigate the Zhao family. All those involved are to be thrown into the heavenly prison. Lin Zixuan and the bastard seed in her belly shall be buried with the crown prince."
Zhao Yan was dragged away by the imperial guards, his shrieks piercing. The emperor looked at me, his tone softening considerably. Swanar, you have done well. The crown prince was muddle-headed and nearly shook the foundations of the state. Were it not for you, I would have no face to meet our ancestors after death. He changed the subject. The war in the north is at a stalemate. The barbarian army presses the border. Zhuang Lang is barely holding on. The Zhao family colluded with the Ministry of War to embezzle the northern frontier's military provisions and pay. This is a fatal blow. Your Majesty, do not worry. The moths in the capital have been eliminated. Within 3 days, the military provisions and pay will set out for the north. They will never delay the front line, I said firmly. The emperor was overjoyed. Good. We grant you full authority to handle the aftermath of the Zhao family case, with no restrictions. When Zhuang Lang returns triumphant, we will personally preside over your wedding. Within 3 days, the capital was turned upside down. Zhao Hong, Minister of War, confessed, revealing the hiding places of the embezzled military pay and a list of accomplices. The emperor, enraged, issued decree after decree. The officialdom witnessed an unprecedented purge. Chen Shao led his men in precise raids on the Zhao family strongholds. The once bustling Zhao mansion now bore only the imperial guard's seal fluttering in the wind. On the morning of the 3rd day, on the official road outside the capital, a 10-li-long convoy stood ready. Loaded with grain, winter clothes, and medicine, each carriage flew a black Lin general flag, the flag my father had once borne. Now it would go to the northern frontier on my behalf, to Li Shuanglang. Standing on the city tower in a white fox fur cloak, I watched the convoy head north. Yunju held an umbrella behind me against the snow. Miss, it is done. I replied softly, catching a snowflake in my palm. It melted instantly. My body was weary, but my heart burned. I imagined Li Shuanglang's expression upon seeing the convoy and the general flag. He would know it was from me. At Yin Meng Pass in the northern frontier, the wind and snow were sharp as knives. Li Shuanglang, clad in black armor, stood on the battlement, his gaze eagle-sharp. His deputy, Zhao Yang, looked worried. General, our last grain reserves will last only 3 days. Without supplies, the brothers cannot hold on. The army has been without medicine for a month. Moans come from the wounded tents every night. The soldiers' winter clothes are in tatters, relying on sheer will against the bitter cold. With the crown prince dead and chaos in the court, we seem to have become forgotten pawns. At that moment, a scout galloped in on horseback, dismounting hastily. Report, a large convoy sighted 30 li outside the pass, heavily loaded with banners, its grain and military supplies. The battlement erupted in exclamations. Li Shuanglang seized the scout's collar, his voice trembling with imperceptible emotion. What do the banners look like? The lead carriage flies a black general flag with only one character on it. Lin. Lin. Li Shuanglang's mind reeled. It was her, Lin Zixuan. At his most desperate moment, she had reversed the deadlock in the capital with her own strength and sent life-saving supplies across 1,000 miles. He could not imagine what she had endured.
That gentle, quiet woman possessed such formidable power within. Pass my order. Open the city gates. The entire army will go out to welcome them. Li Xuanlong's voice thundered across the battlement. The gates of Yinmeng Pass slowly opened. Wind and snow poured in, but no one felt the cold. When the first grain cart entered the city, veteran soldiers knelt and wept bitterly. Iron-blooded men shed tears of joy, the ecstasy of salvation from the brink of death. The supplies were counted late into the night. Li Xuanlong inspected the warehouses, looking at the neatly stacked grain, medicine, and winter clothes. His heart, tense for months, finally relaxed. A personal guard approached, holding a red sandalwood box. General, this was found beneath the general's flag on the lead carriage with instructions to be delivered to you personally. Li Xuanlong opened the box. Inside lay an elegant note bearing 5 delicately inked characters. Zhen Zheng Zi Xin, Dai Jun Kai Xuan. Take care of yourself. I await your triumphant return. Beneath the note was a single, perfectly preserved sprig of winter plum, slightly withered but still fragrant. He remembered the red plum blossoms in the gardens of the Grand Chancellor's estate. They had been her favorite. His fingertips brushed the delicate petals, and a warmth he had long thought frozen seeped into his chest. "Wait for me," he whispered in his heart. "Once I have pacified this frontier, I will return to the capital. I will shield you from all storms for the rest of our days." Meanwhile, in the capital's court, the vacant positions left by the Zhao family's fall became a feast for covetous factions. The emperor summoned me to discuss the strategy for new appointments. This subject's daughter believes we should promote based on merit alone, disregarding background. Advancing talented individuals from humble backgrounds can inject fresh vitality to the court and show scholars across the realm your majesty's wisdom in employing the worthy. The emperor praised the suggestion and ordered me to assist the Minister of Personnel in the selections. Half a month later, a battlefield report from the north arrived, accompanied by a personal letter from Li Xuanlong. The report detailed a decisive ambush. Li Xuanlong had crushed 30,000 barbarian troops, driving the enemy back 100 li. His personal letter was mostly analyses of military affairs, but at the end, in smaller script, he had written, "The plum has been received. The northern land is bitter cold. I look forward to spring. You too must take care." Under the candlelight, I traced those few characters, an unconscious smile touching my lips. When the north is pacified and the spring breeze blows, I will have a 10-mile red dowry spread across the capital, awaiting your return. Yet, before the spring breeze arrived, undercurrents began to surge. Veteran ministers, led by Grand Secretary Wang Duan, used ancestral precedents to obstruct the new policies. The promotion of scholars from poor families stalled. Furthermore, the second prince, Li Changri, began to appear frequently. Gentle, elegant, respectful of the virtuous and talented, he actively supported my initiatives and even established a hall of virtue to recruit scholars, earning a sterling reputation and subtly positioning himself as a challenger to my influence. I was well aware of the hidden danger, yet I continued to advance the new policies step by step. After the beginning of spring, Vice Minister of Personnel, Lin Yuan, presided over a special imperial examination. The list of new Jinshi graduates was praised by many, but on the eve of their official appointments, anonymous memorials flooded the censorate, accusing Lin Yuan of fraud, bribery, and leaking examination questions, complete with witnesses and material evidence. Overnight, public opinion reversed. Failed scholars surrounded the palace gates. At the morning court, veterans like Wang Duan launched fierce attacks, demanding Lin Yuan's severe punishment and the revocation of my authority to assist in court affairs. The second prince feigned intercession while dealing me covert blows. The emperor looked at me. "Xuaner, what have you to say?" "This subject's daughter believes in Lin Yuan's integrity. I beg your majesty for 3 days. I will uncover the truth, clear Vice Minister Lin Yuan's name, and give an explanation to all scholars under heaven." I held my back straight. For those 3 days, all clues pointed inexorably towards Lin Yuan, as if a net had been cast, leaving me no room to maneuver. Rumors swirled through the capital. Lin Zixuan was about to fall from power. On the evening of the 3rd day, I sat alone in the study. a rare feeling of powerlessness washing over me. At that moment, Yunju brought in an 800-li urgent letter from the northern frontier. A personal letter from Li Shanlang, only a few lines. The barbarian high priest excels at interlocking schemes. To break them, one must discard the surface and strike at the core. Remember, the capital is also a battlefield. Be cautious. Discard the surface, strike at the core. A lightning bolt of understanding struck me. I had been fixated on clearing Lin Yuan's name, but forgotten that the true target was me. Lin Yuan was the surface. I was the core. Yunju, immediately investigate all individuals who have had recent contact with the second prince's residence and Grand Secretary Wang's mansion. At dawn, I entered the court in full ceremonial attire. Facing Grand Secretary Wang's aggressive questioning, I went directly to my knees before the emperor. This subject's daughter is incompetent. I have not yet found the truth regarding Lin Yuan's case, but I have discovered something else. I presented an account book. This is the ledger of the second prince's Hall of Virtue. Under the guise of patronage, he distributed 30,000 taels of silver to dozens of failed scholars, the very men now besieging the palace gates. The second prince's face changed dramatically. Slander! If your highness so loves talent, why not sponsor the new Jinshi? Why only the resentful failed scholars? I turned to the emperor. There are indeed doubts in Lin Yuan's case, but the second prince's actions in gathering scholars, inciting criticism of the court, and shaking the state's foundations are clear for all to see. I beg your majesty to investigate thoroughly. As the court descended into chaos, the sound of thundering horses in clashing armor echoed from outside the hall. The Imperial Guard commander rushed in. Your Majesty, General Li Shanlang of the northern frontier has arrived at the palace gates with 3,000 light cavalry. He reports a great victory in the north. The barbarian threat has been eradicated, and he has specially returned to the capital to present his achievements. The entire hall fell silent. I raised my head abruptly, my eyes suddenly moist. He was back. My general was back. The emperor, overjoyed, ordered Li Shanlang to enter the hall. Clad in black armor, bearing the dust and frost of a long journey, Li Shanlang strode in. Behind him, guards dragged the captured barbarian high priest. This subject has fulfilled his mission. I annihilated the main force of the barbarian royal court at the foot of Wolfang Mountain, beheaded their Khan, and captured their high priest. The troubles of the northern frontier are no more. The emperor personally helped him to his feet. Li Shanlang's gaze swept the hall and finally settled on me. 1,000 words were contained in that one look. He turned to the high priest, his voice icy. Speak. Who ordered you to send agents into the capital, collude with court officials, forge evidence to frame loyal ministers, and destabilize the court? The high priest stared in terror at the second prince, not daring to speak. The second prince's face turned ashen. Grand Secretary Wang collapsed to the floor. The truth was laid bare. The emperor issued his decree. The second prince was stripped of his title and confined for life. Wang Duan and his faction were executed or exiled. Lin Yuan was exonerated, and the new policies would proceed unhindered. On the day the dust settled, it snowed once more in the capital. I stood beneath the red melm tree in the palace courtyard, catching a snowflake in my palm. Steady footsteps sounded behind me. A warm, heavy black fur cloak was draped over my shoulders. The capital's winter is finally over, I said softly. I'm back. Li Shanlang tightened the cloak around me, his voice deep and gentle. I turned to face him, looking into those profound eyes. There was no more killing intent, no coldness, only tenderness, deep as the sea. Shunlang, I whispered, spring has come. He reached out and pulled me firmly into his embrace. It was solid,
warm and vast, exactly as I had imagined countless times. "And I still owe you a 10-mile red dowry," he murmured into my hair. Yes, spring had come. Our spring had finally arrived. From then on, the rivers and mountains were peaceful, the people lived in safety, and by my side there would always be that general who could shield me from all wind and snow, whose heart, once as cold and hard as the northern frontier, now beat only for me. The wedding of Prince Jing, Li Shunlong, and the Grand Chancellor's daughter, Lin Zixuan, was said to be the most spectacular the capital had witnessed in a century. True to his word, he gave her a bridal procession of 10 miles of pure, unbroken red, from the palace gates all the way to the newly built Prince Jing residence. It was not the red of brocade and silk, but of countless red plum blossoms flown in from the southern provinces, their petals carpeting the streets, their scent filling the air. It was a declaration. You love plum blossoms? I will give you a whole spring of them. The emperor himself presided over the ceremony. The entire Lin family was present, beaming with pride. Madame Zhao, now a broken woman confined to a remote nunnery, was not in attendance. Lin Ziyu, having given birth to a sickly son in the cold confines of the eastern palace, lived a life of obscure desolation. The Zhao family was gone, its legacy one of infamy. That night, in the bridal chamber, the phoenix coronet was set aside. Li Shunlong carefully removed the heavy hairpins, his calloused hands surprisingly gentle. "You've lost weight," he said, his brow slightly furrowed. "Strategic planning is quite consuming," I replied, a playful glint in my eye. "But I hear commanding armies on the frontier is no less arduous, Your Highness." A low chuckle rumbled in his chest. He produced a small box from his sleeve. Inside, on a bed of black velvet, lay not jewelry, but a pair of exquisitely made hairpins. Their bodies were white jade, carved into the shape of plum branches, and at their ends, instead of flowers, were tiny, perfectly forged steel plum blossoms, delicate yet unyielding. "For my princess," he said, securing one in my hair, "who is neither a caged bird nor a fragile blossom, but the steel and spirit of the plum in deepest winter." My heart swelled. This man understood me completely. "Then, Your Highness," I said, taking the other hairpin and carefully placing it in his own hair, a bold and intimate gesture, "must be the mountain that shelters this winter plum, allowing it to bloom against the frost." His eyes darkened with emotion. He captured my hand, his thumb stroking my palm. "Schwaner, the north is vast and cold, but its skies are clear and its stars are bright. It is a place of freedom, not conspiracy. Would you truly go there with me?" I met his gaze squarely, all pretense gone. "My home is where you are, be it the bustling capital or the remote frontier. But," a sly smile touched my lips, "I hear the administrative affairs of the northern territories are in some disarray. A certain prince seems to excel at warfare, but neglects governance. Perhaps his princess could be of assistance." A real, full smile broke across Li Shunlong's stern features, transforming him. It was a sight few had ever seen. "I had hoped you would say that. The 300,000 black-armored cavalry and the millions of northern citizens," he said, his tone formal yet warm, "await your guidance, Princess Jing." From that day forth, the legend of Prince Jing and his princess spread far and wide. He was the invincible god of war, the sharpest sword of the great Liang dynasty. She was his most trusted advisor, the wise and steady hand that governed the north in his absence, renowned for her fairness and brilliance. They were rarely in the capital. Their home was the sprawling general's manor at Yanmen Pass, where the wind howled but the hearth fire was always warm. From there, they built not just a military fortress, but a prosperous, peaceful territory. She promoted agriculture, opened schools, and established trade routes. He trained the army, secured the borders, and ensured justice. Occasionally, reports would reach the capital of the princess riding alongside the prince on inspections, her cloak billowing in the northern wind, or of her presiding over court sessions in the manor, her judgments wise and swift. The emperor would read these reports and smile, knowing his brother had found not just a wife, but a true partner, and that the northern frontier, once a source of worry, was now the empire's strongest shield. And in the quiet nights, under the brilliantly clear northern stars, he would hold her close, and the ghosts of past betrayals and poisoned cups would melt away, replaced by the solid reality of shared purpose and deep, abiding love. The abandoned bride of the capital had not just found revenge, she had found her destiny, her equal, and a love as enduring and unyielding as the winter plum, blooming most beautifully against the frost. The years in the north were not merely an escape, but a forging. Together, Li Zixuan and I built something real from the frozen ground, a territory where justice held meaning and peace was more than a lull between wars. The black iron token was no mere symbol, it was a covenant. His soldiers, hardened men of the frontier, learned to respect the clear-eyed woman who rode beside their general, who remembered the names of their families, and who ensured their granaries were full and their winter coats thick. 5 years after our wedding, a quiet revolution had taken place in the northern provinces. Trade flourished along the revitalized silk routes we protected. New towns, built with sensible, fortified designs I had sketched myself, sprouted like hardy winter wheat. The people no longer whispered of Prince Jing as only a devil of war, but spoke of the lord and lady of Yanmen with a tone of fierce, protective pride. It was during the 5th winter that a different kind of courier arrived from the capital, not with military dispatches, but with an imperial decree bearing the heavy, urgent seal of the emperor himself. Li Zixuan broke the seal in our study, the crackle of parchment loud in the silence. I watched his face, seeing the familiar lines of command harden, then soften with a profound, weary sorrow. He handed the scroll to me without a word. The emperor was dying. The illness was sudden and merciless. The missive was a summons, but also a plea. To our most trusted brother and sister, the realm faces its hour of twilight. The air is young, the court is a nest of scorpions. Return to us, bring your northern winds to cleanse the stale air of the palace. The young heir was the son of a virtuous but politically weak concubine, a boy of only 7 summers. I placed the decree on the desk, the weight of it seeming to press on the very air. It is a trap, and a summons we cannot refuse. Li Zixuan's gaze met mine. He saw no fear in my eyes, only the same cold, calculating clarity he had seen on our wedding day. The capital has not changed, only the players have shifted. Wang Duan's faction is gone, but others have grown fat on complacency and intrigue. We will not go as supplicants, I stated, my mind already racing, nor as mere relatives. We go as the guardians His Majesty has named us to be. Chen Shao, the deputy commander, now a grizzled veteran with absolute loyalty, appeared at the door. Princess, prepare the guard of honor. 1,000 of our finest black-armored cavalry. We ride for the capital in 3 days. Send scouts ahead on the swiftest horses. I want reports on every faction, every whisper in the court before we reach the city gates. As you command, he bowed and vanished. Li Zixuan approached, placing his hands on my shoulders. You are prepared to step back into that viper's pit? A ghost of my old, cold smile touched my lips. I am not the girl who was carried out of it in a wedding pelican. I am the princess of Yanmen, and I carry the northern frontier with me. The vipers should fear the frost. The journey south was a stark contrast to my fateful wedding procession years before. This time, I did not ride hidden in a sedan. I rode at the head of the column beside my husband, clad not in heavy brocade, but in a practical, fur-lined riding habit of deep blue, a silver hairpin shaped like a plum branch, his gift, holding my hair in a simple knot. The 1,000 cavalry behind us were not a ceremonial guard, but a silent, rolling thunder of disciplined might. The message was unmistakable. News of our approach outran us. By the time the soaring walls of the capital appeared on the horizon, the city was holding its breath. We entered not through the Tianwu gate of my humiliation, but through the military-facing Xuanwu gate. The officials gathered to receive us wore smiles that didn't reach their eyes. At their head was the chief grand secretary, a man named Gao Liang, who had risen in the power vacuum after Wang Duan's fall. He was all unctuous courtesy. "Your Highness Prince Jing, Your Highness Princess Jing, the capital welcomes you. His Majesty eagerly awaits your presence." Li Xuanlang merely gave a slight acknowledging nod, his expression unreadable. I offered a perfectly polite, utterly chilly smile. "Grand Secretary Gao, we come at our imperial brother's urgent request. The state of his health is our only concern. Let us not delay." We went directly to the palace, the black armored cavalry taking up disciplined positions around the outer gates, a silent obsidian perimeter that changed the very atmosphere of the imperial complex. The emperor was a shadow of the formidable ruler I remembered. Propped on pillows in his dragon-embroidered bed, his eyes, however, still held a sharp, desperate intelligence. He grasped Li Xuanlang's hand with frail strength. "Li Xuanlang, the court, they circle like vultures. My son." His gaze shifted to me. "Sister-in-law, you understand the game. You must secure the throne for him. Promise me." I knelt by the bedside, my voice low and steady. "Your Majesty, we promise. Your son will ascend the throne. The court will be cleansed. The great Liang will endure." It was not a daughter's promise, but a sovereign's vow. In the days that followed, we operated from the Prince Jing residence in the capital, which had been maintained but felt like a gilded cage. The real work happened in the dead of night. Chen Shao's scouts delivered their reports. Yunju, who had remained a steadfast confidant, reconnected with a network of palace servants, loyal not to any faction, but to the stability of the throne itself. The opposition was led by Grand Secretary Gao, who had planned to become the power behind a child emperor's throne. His alliance included several powerful ministers from the revenue and personnel ministries, and, to my cold amusement, the now widowed duchess of the much-diminished Zhao clan, a distant aunt seeking to reclaim lost influence. Their plan was elegant in its treachery: to delay the official ascension ceremony with debates over protocol, use the interregnum to insert their own men into key imperial guard posts, and then present the child emperor as a fait accompli under their guidance. They underestimated two things: the military authority Li Xuanlang commanded simply by his presence, and my intimate knowledge of how to wage war in drawing rooms, not just on battlefields. The crisis broke on the eve of the planned ascension ceremony. A false rumor, artfully spread by Gao's agents, claimed Li Xuanlang was mobilizing the northern armies to seize the throne for himself. It was meant to create panic, to force the hands of neutral ministers against us. That night, as the rumor slithered through the capital, I did not summon guards or issue denials. Instead, I sent out elegant handwritten invitations. The next morning, in the main hall of the Prince Jing residence, a most unusual assembly gathered. Before the stunned eyes of Grand Secretary Gao and his cohorts, who had come expecting a confrontation, were not soldiers, but scholars. Dozens of them, the very Jin Shi from humble origins Lin Yuan and I had promoted years before. They now held mid-level posts across the bureaucracy, in archives, in provincial administration, in the ministries themselves. They were the gears of the empire, not its ornate facade. I stood before them, dressed in a gown of somber gray, the silver plum pin my only adornment. You have heard the rumors. You know the stakes. His late Majesty sought talent from all corners of the realm, believing merit, not birth, should guide our empire. Do you believe Prince Jing and I, who have devoted our lives to guarding the frontier and administering its people, now seek to plunge this empire into civil war for personal ambition? Or do you believe those, I cast a glacial glance at Gao Liang, who have never left the comforts of the capital, who see the throne only as a vehicle for their own power, are its true defenders? It was not a question of loyalty to a person, but to an idea, the idea of the empire His late Majesty and we had tried to build. One by one, the scholars stood. They did not shout or draw swords. They simply stated their positions, cited evidence of Gao's faction's corruption and preparations for a coup, and pledged their administrative offices to ensure a smooth transition of power. It was a bloodless coup of legitimacy. Gao Liang sputtered, turning to the commander of the Imperial Guard, a man he believed he had bought. But the commander, seeing the united front of scholar officials and feeling the unspoken presence of the black-armored cavalry beyond the walls, knelt not to Gao Liang, but to Li Xuanlang. Your Highness, the Imperial Guard awaits your command to secure the palace for the Ascension ceremony. The fight drained from Gao Liang's face. He had played the game of whispers and bribes, but he had not understood the board. We had changed the game itself. The ascension of the young Emperor Li Zhao proceeded at dawn the next day, flawless and solemn. Li Xuanlang and I stood as regents at the new boy emperor's side, titles officially bestowed by the dying wish of his father. Our first edict, issued in the child's name, was a purge, swift, legal, and final. Gao Liang and his core conspirators were arrested for treason. Their network was dismantled not through massacre, but through reassignments, audits, and the steady, reliable work of the scholars who now stepped into the light. We stayed in the capital for a year, long enough to see the new court stabilized, the young emperor under the tutelage of truly loyal and wise advisors. Li Xuanlang restructured the capital's defenses. I reformed the inner palace administration, rooting out the last vestiges of the harem intrigue that had once poisoned my life. When spring returned to the capital, painting the willows by the canals in tender green, we knew our work was done. The empire was safe, the succession secure.
On the day of our departure, the young Emperor Li Zhao, now 8 and already bearing the grave demeanor of his station, clasped our hands. "Uncle, Aunt, must you go?" Li Xuanlang placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "The North needs its guardians, and the capital needs to learn to stand on its own under its rightful emperor. Rule justly, listen to you good advisors, and remember the people are the foundation of the throne." I bent down, meeting his eyes. "And if you are ever in doubt, think of the winter plum. It does not grow in sheltered gardens, but withstands the harsh wind to bloom with the greatest strength." We rode out once more through the Xuanwu Gate, our column smaller now, but our hearts light. The capital, with its intricate panes and poisoned memories, shrank behind us, giving way to the vast, open sky of the frontier. As the familiar, rugged outline of Yanmen Pass appeared on the horizon, Li Xuanlang reached across the space between our horses and took my hand. His palm was calloused, warm, and sure. "Welcome home, Princess Jing," his eyes reflecting the clear, endless blue of the northern sky. I smiled, a true, unfettered smile that reached my eyes. "Welcome home, my general." The wind carried the distant, hopeful scent of thawing earth. Behind us lay the intricate, finished tapestry of revenge and political triumph.
Before us stretched the simple, endearing masterpiece of a life built together, a life of purpose, partnership, and a peace earned not by chance, but by our own hands. And in the heart of the northern frontier, under the watchful stars, the legend of the Lord and Lady of Yon Men continued, no longer a story of survival, but an enduring ballad of rulership, love, and a dynasty they had not just saved, but truly transformed.